Absolutely. Here's a 500-word story that explores the topic. 5 signs from your childhood that prove you were chosen by God. Told through the life of a character who reflects on their early years with new understanding. Elena sat by the window of her quiet apartment, watching the rain trace lazy lines down the glass. She was 37 now, but her mind wandered back to moments from long ago, strange little memories that used to feel like coincidences. Lately, though, she was beginning to see them differently. Maybe they weren't random. Maybe they were signs. 1. You felt deeply, even when no one understood why. As a child, Elena cried easily, not just when she was hurt, but when others were hurting. Once in third grade, her class watched a film about a boy who lost his dog, and she wept for hours. Her classmates teased her for being too sensitive. But looking back, she realizes that sensitivity was actually a gift, a heart tuned into pain, meant to heal and intercede for others. God had placed compassion in her spirit from the very start. 2. You asked big questions. While other kids played tag or drew dinosaurs, Alina was asking her grandmother things like, "Why do people die?" Or "Where does love go when someone leaves?" She remembers adults laughing awkwardly, unsure how to answer. But that hunger for truth, even at a young age, was the spark of something divine. She was seeking meaning, not from the world, but from something greater. 3. You felt a pull towards solitude. Elena spent a lot of time alone, not because she didn't like people, but because silence felt safe. In her room, under her blanket, she would talk to someone, whispering prayers before she even knew what prayer really was. "God, are you real?" she used to ask, holding her breath for some kind of sign. That deep yearning for connection wasn't loneliness. It was God calling her even then. 4. You were protected in moments you didn't understand. There were moments she still couldn't explain, like the time she wandered too far from home at age 6, only to have a kind stranger guide her safely back, someone she never saw again. Or the time she narrowly missed being hit by a speeding car because she dropped her doll and bent down at just the right moment. Back then, it seemed like luck. Now she knows it was grace. 5. You carried a sense that you were meant for something. Even in her most insecure moments, Elena had this whisper inside her. You are different. You are here for more. She often felt out of place, not quite like the others. But now, as she looks back, she realizes it was never about fitting in. It was about being set apart. Elena wiped a tear from her cheek, not from sadness, but from clarity. All those moments weren't just memories. They were messages, reminders that she had been seen, chosen, and gently led. Even before she understood who God was, he was already weaving her story. Would you like a 2-sentence quote from this turned into a voiceover? Just pick a voice, and I'll make it happen. Absolutely. Here's a 500-word continuation of the story, following Elena as she begins to fully embrace her calling and what it means to be chosen. That evening, Elena stood in front of her bathroom mirror, brushing her hair slowly, thinking about the girl she used to be. The child with too many questions, too many feelings, too many moments of stillness the world didn't know how to handle. She used to see her past as a patchwork of awkward, misunderstood moments, but now she saw something else: intention. Every fragment fit into a design that was bigger than her. For years, Elena had run from that different feeling, trying to blend in, trying to be normal. She chose safe jobs, quiet relationships, and routines that didn't stir the spirit too much. But lately, she had felt a stirring inside her again, like the child in the blanket fort whispering prayers into the dark. It was the same voice, still soft, still gentle, calling her to something deeper. She began journaling again, something she hadn't done since high school. Not just to record her day, but to write down the dreams that had returned. She started waking in the night with ideas, messages, visions even. Not the kind that shouted, but the kind that felt like someone laying a hand on her shoulder and saying, "Pay attention." At church, she began volunteering with the youth group. At first, she thought it would be a small thing. But when one of the teenage girls came to her in tears after a lesson, whispering, "I feel like no one sees me," something inside Elena clicked. She knew exactly how that girl felt. She had been that girl. And now she could look her in the eye and say, "I see you, and God does too." Week by week, doors opened. A local women's group asked her to speak. Then a podcast invited her to share her story. People started reaching out, saying her words made them feel known, less alone. But it wasn't Elena's eloquence or wisdom they were drawn to. It was the God who had been shaping her all along. One morning, walking through the park, she paused at a bench and sat down, letting the sun warm her face. A bird landed nearby and started singing. Simple, beautiful, unafraid. Elena smiled. That's what she was becoming. No longer hiding her voice, her story, or her calling. "I used to think being chosen meant being perfect," she whispered. "But it really just means being willing." And she was. At last. Because the signs were always there, woven into her childhood like stars across a night sky. Feelings that ran too deep, questions too big, moments of protection too precise to ignore. Now she saw them for what they were, proof that even then, God had marked her, prepared her, and loved her into becoming. Would you like a quote from this part of the story turned into a voiceover? I can pull out a strong line. Just let me know your preferred voice. Sure. Here's a 200-word paragraph that adds a final, reflective touch to Elena's journey. Years later, Elena would sit with her own daughter on a rainy afternoon, watching droplets race down the window just like she used to. Her daughter, only 8, turned to her with wide eyes and asked, "Mom, do you ever feel like you're supposed to do something big, but you don't know what it is yet?" Elena smiled softly, her heart catching at the familiarity of that question. "Yes," she said, brushing a strand of hair from the child's face. "And that feeling is a gift. It means God's already speaking to your heart." She didn't need to preach or give answers. She just wanted her daughter to know early what she had learned late. Being chosen wasn't about status or spotlight. It was about walking closely with God, letting Him guide even the smallest steps. Watching her daughter nod, Elena felt peace. The same signs she had once questioned were now a legacy, a quiet, holy path being passed to the next generation. And she knew then, just as surely as she knew the rain would pass, that God had been with her from the very beginning and would be with her child too. Let me know if you want a quote from this part voiced.